Hi there. It's November the 14th, and we're continuing our journey through the letter to the Hebrews. And we are in chapter 11, we're reading from verse 31, and we're going through to chapter 12 and verse 13. So the writer now says, having begun to unpack the faith of all these heroes of faith that he's been looking at, like Abraham, like Joseph, Moses, others, he now says, I've run out of space here. I could go on and tell you about more, about the judges, about Samson, about Barak, about others, about the kings, about David and Solomon, about the prophets. He's saying, but all of these lived in faith. All of these were empowered by their faith. And this empowered them to do amazing things, to shut the mouths of lions, to see resurrection from the dead, widows receiving back their sons. But also it enabled them to endure terrible suffering. And then the writer sort of moves into a whole list of things that people went through, wandering in deserts and being sawn in two and being oppressed and being tortured and terrible things that were happening that were recorded in the scriptures. And so what he's doing is he's pointing out to his readers that it's not all good stuff. It's not all positive stuff that happens. Faith also enables us to go through the tough stuff and the hard stuff. And that we need that faith. We need that trust in God to hold us even when we are not in the best places. And he says at the end of this list, this amazing list of people, he says of them, onuk in axios or cosmos, of whom the world was not worthy. The world didn't deserve such people who were trusting in God in this way. But he then also says they didn't see the fulfillment of the prophet promise. They died without seeing the fulfillment of the promises so that we could catch up with them, so that they would leave room for us who are still coming along after them, that there would be space for us together to come to completion and to fulfillment. And so at the beginning of chapter 12, the writer points back to all of these heroes of faith of chapter 11. He says, look, what an amazing host, a cloud of witnesses we are surrounded with. These people who, as it were, are looking down from the battlements of heaven, as it were, and cheering us on and saying, go for it. And so he's saying, it's like the picture is of a great stadium where the athletes are running and all these witnesses are filling the stadium and are cheering us on as we run. And he says, run the race, therefore. Put aside all the weights and the things that bind you, the things that trip you up. Put aside the sin and the failure that easily gets to us. And let's run with patience the race set before us. And particularly at this point, he says, just look at Jesus. Jesus is our pace setter. Jesus is the one who's already gone there. He is the one who's already doing his victory lap, as it were. And he is the one who said no to sin. He endured death. He went through it. And he's now seated at the right hand of God. It said he made light of all the pain and the shame. And so he says, don't get weary, don't get worn out, go for it, go for the prize in Jesus. And then he points out the fact they have been struggling, there have been bad times. He's writing to people who have been involved, having been persecuted, having been rejected by their own people from the synagogue, from worship with other Jews. They've been attacked by Gentiles, by people who are oppressing them for their faith. But he says, don't give up, because this is like, he says, God correcting you, God training you, God disciplining you. He says, no training at the time seems pleasant. It's tough, it's hard, it's painful, but actually at the end of it all, it will produce a harvest of righteousness. It will produce the harvest that when you look back, you say it was worth it. Like that athlete running for the prize, going through the pain barrier, breaking through. God is with us. And actually, he says, if we weren't receiving this kind of encouragement and training and correction through pain, then we wouldn't really be children, because a father corrects the children. A father can even cause pain to his children in order to train them, and that shows that they're truly children. So it doesn't only bring good things, but actually sometimes the pain is part of the process. And therefore, he says, at the end of our reading here in verses 12 and 13, he says, don't let your hands go slack. Don't give up. Don't drop your hands. Don't let your knees crumple from underneath you. And if you need healing, get healing. But keep on this amazing race that we are in. It's a powerful reading that we've just read. It's a powerful encouragement to stick with Jesus, to stick with the path the saints have trodden, to stick with the heroes of faith of the Old Testament and the New. Let us, as we continue on our race, on our journey with Jesus, let us look to him, the one who's gone before, the one who made light of the pain and the shame of the cross, and let's press on for that prize that is there in him. Have a very good November 14th.